So welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 521, and I hope you are absolutely profoundly well, because today I'd like to go into a deeper level of how your unconscious mind works. You see, we do have the conscious mind, and the conscious mind is ultimately, and thank you, by the way, for everyone listening to this on the podcast replay. This is being broadcasted live on YouTube and also on Facebook. And Vanessa said, we appreciate your constant giving. Oh, thank you ever so much. I really do appreciate that, because I'm trying to do as much as possible at the moment, like 3 times, 4 times a week going live, getting back to the old way of me doing things. But I'm really excited and passionate about it. But like I said, thank you so much. And getting back to the topic at hand, this subject is about understanding more about how your brain works, because you have your conscious mind. And if you could consciously let go of certain issues in your life, click of the fingers, you would have done it already. But if you cannot, it means like your unconscious mind is running this issue. It's almost as if there is assumed responsibility for it. It's decided that's where it's going to really be going. Running and maintaining the same issue that we've had for maybe years, maybe for decades. So we do have the conscious mind. We also have the unconscious mind, and the unconscious mind does all the things, obviously, what the conscious mind doesn't, like the healing, like the breathing, like the running, like the talking, like the walking, like the driving, like the, if you cut yourself, it'll heal itself. It runs the memories, like the list goes on. It does many, many awesome things, the habits, all of that stuff. It is the runner of those certain types of behaviors. Now, there are 4 steps to learning. 4 steps. You might want to write these down as well. Who knows? It might be of value to you. Because once we understand the steps to learning and transformation, we now know what we need to do to be able to make this happen, or to make your success happen, or to get more freedom in your life, to achieve those goals, to get what you want in your health, your relationship, your career, your finances, all those types of things. We need to understand and know what is happening ultimately. So in other words, it doesn't just remain unconscious. If it remains unconscious, then we're out of control ultimately. And we don't want to be out of control. We want to be able to be firmly the director of our life. So the 4 steps, and they go in a certain order. So the first step is that, let's just say we have an issue. We are unconsciously incompetent. Unconsciously incompetent. In other words, our unconscious mind doesn't know that there's an issue. There could be an issue. There is an issue, but it doesn't know what it doesn't know. In other words, we could be living our life like a zombie, or thinking that it's natural, normal to feel the feelings that we have, or to run the fear or the phobia, or to run the limiting belief, or the anxiety, the worries and doubts. It doesn't know that what it's doing is not to your liking. It's just happening beneath the surface, and it thinks actually it's doing a good job, because there's always a positive intent behind the behaviors that we have. There's always a positive intent as to why our unconscious mind does what it does. So that first step is unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. Now, the next step, which is really important for you to understand, is which is conscious incompetence. Now, we're consciously incompetent. In other words, we don't know how to change yet. It's all new and it's fresh. As to paint an analogy in your mind, it's like learning to walk. In the beginning of our existence into this world, we didn't know the existence of walking. So unconsciously incompetent. We have no idea. We have no idea of what walking is. Then we become consciously incompetent. So therefore, we're aware that there's an issue. We're aware that there's an issue, but we have no idea how to change it. In the analogy of walking, it's like now we see people walking and we're a baby, but we have no idea how to walk. It's out of our realm. We have no experience. We have no understanding of what walking is. We can observe it, but we have no idea ultimately how to do it. So we're incompetent at the behavior of walking. Or, let's put it in case of our issue, now we're aware there's an issue, but we don't know how to change. So we're consciously incompetent at changing our experience. We're consciously incompetent of getting what we want. We have no idea, but we are aware that there is an issue in mind. Or we're now aware of what something is. Like, oh, we know there is the action of walking. Oh, we do know what money is now. We have no idea about money, but now we know about it because we're just becoming accustomed to it. So the first two steps, once again, unconsciously incompetent. We don't know what we don't know. Consciously competent, we now know, but we don't know how to change. There is no way of knowing how to do that. We haven't got the experience. We haven't learned what we've needed to learn. The third aspect, the third step is conscious competence. This is where we start to, obviously from the second one, we don't know what we don't know consciously, but we know there's an issue. We don't know how to change it. But now conscious competence is you starting to apply a certain system. There are many ways that you can apply it. So if we take the analogy of walking, you're observing people walking, and then you're starting to walk, and you're not very good at it. You fall over. Or you learn to drive, you're not very good at it. But over a period of time, maybe it's a couple of days for some people, maybe it's weeks, maybe it's months, depending on the issue and the person. But after a period of time, we become more competent at it. It's not automatic, it's not a habit, but we know how to do it. We almost like know the step by step. Okay, I put my left foot forward, put my right foot forward. Hopefully I'm standing up. Then I go and repeat the process, but it's very clunky. It's very conscious. In fact, anything that you've learned, you would have gone through all of these processes. First of all, we don't know what we don't know unconsciously, and then we're consciously incompetent. Therefore, now we know there's an issue, but we don't know how to change. Or now we know there's something to learn, but we don't know the learnings. We haven't had any application of it. And then that third step is being consciously competent. So you're now starting to introduce that experience. You're introducing the learning of it, but it's not very fluid. It's not very fluent, in other words. Now, the fourth step, and it's actually 5, by the way, but we'll get to that soon. The fourth step is once we've been so dedicated and so consistent at doing it consciously, after a while, our unconscious mind will assume responsibility for it. So what that ultimately means is that we hand it over to the unconscious mind. You've learned to drive for so long consciously, you've done it for such a long time, that it becomes natural because your unconscious mind does it. So now when you drive a car, now when we ride a bike, now when we walk, now when we do the thing, it becomes second nature. Therefore, it's more natural. The unconscious mind assumes responsibility for it. That's unconscious competence. Those are the 4 steps of ultimately learning and getting success. First one, unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. We have no idea. Consciously incompetent, which is a second one. Now we know there's an issue. Then we start to do something, which is very vital in transformation. We start to apply something. You see, consistency, if we break down, I mean, that's the real big one for you right now. That's the real big one for you personally, because it's going to feel like a battle. It's going to feel like a struggle to make a change. So therefore, we're consciously fighting, we're consciously trying to apply as much as we can, and therefore, it's hard, but it's vital. It's you doing the work, in other words. You're doing it so often, so consistent, that it then becomes natural. So you're being so dedicated and consistent, for success will not ignore you. Success will be like, oh my goodness, you're doing it so often now. This feels natural. This feels good. This feels like this is what I can do on your behalf. So knowing that you could say that third step of conscious competence is the most important part. And if we backstep a little bit, when we don't know what we don't know consciously, but we kind of know there's an issue, but we don't know how to change, that's taking responsibility ultimately. You're taking responsibility to then go to that third level, which is conscious competence. When you're doing something that it becomes more natural to you consciously. Now, when it comes to transformation, what can we do at this phase? Because that's where most people are going to be, or they want to be able to master. The first aspect is modeling people. Noticing how people do things. We go back to the analogy when we were learning to walk. We were modeling people who could walk. We saw adults, our parents, our siblings walking. We modeled them, we observed them, and we try to replicate it within ourselves. So you need to model success. You don't model people that, if you want to lose weight, for example, you're not going to model someone who is overweight. You're going to model someone who has lost weight. Maybe has been overweight, but lost it to make it even more powerful. If you want to work with someone, if your goal is to be free of the imposter syndrome, ideally you want to work with someone who's overcame that and model them. Be a part of their sphere. Because it almost goes into you are the sum of who you surround yourself with. So if you're surrounding yourself with the kind of people who maybe are negative and doubtful or pessimistic, or just like not the kind of person you want to be hanging around with, but let's just say you do, are you going to be influenced by that person or those group of people? Of course you are, because you are observing them. You're picking up on their belief systems, and that's where it can be kind of hard when it comes to hanging around with our families sometimes. Maybe they don't have the belief systems that we would like to have. Maybe they're hypnotized. They think money is the root of all evil, or money is something which is hard to come by. Now, if we are in that sphere, we're being influenced by that sphere and experience. So does it mean we shouldn't hang out with family? No, not at all. You can hang out with your family. But we've got to manage our state in those situations, and we've got to flip the weighing scales. I can't remember who said it, but when there is fearful or worry, you should think on the contrary. So in other words, you should go into the opposite, look into the other. And it's the same thing when it comes to our friends and our family. We want to be able to introduce other people of a like mind of where we want to be. You could say sometimes you want to be in it. Like, I think I said this recently, I'm not sure. It doesn't sound that good, but you want to be the most unintelligent person in the room, because then you're always going to learn. You're going to be learning from all these intelligent people. You don't want to be the most intelligent. You don't want to be the most happiest all the time. Yes, it's nice to be the example of transformation, but if you want to really grow, and let's just say you've got an issue, you want to surround yourself with people who've found that solution, who is doing what you want to be doing. If you want to be a coach, you want to be coached by a great coach. If you want to get a better job and career, you want to surround yourself with someone who's good at doing that, who has done it over and over again, who can teach you how to do it. So that is why we say you are the sum of those around you. Some people say the 5 closest people around you. And it kind of makes sense to a degree. So we want to introduce other people. But if we go back to the subject in hand, we're talking about becoming consciously competent. Or one way of being consciously competent is modeling and observing other people who have done what you've done. Now, of course, you might not have the ability to be with that person. Let's just say you've got imposter syndrome, you don't feel good enough or worthy. I know that I can let that go. And let's just say you can't get that. You can't like be connected with me. Like, for example, maybe you can't afford me, or you're too busy, or, you know, the distance between us and all those things. Whatever the issue is, you can still model me from a distance. You can notice the kind of things that I do, how I show up, how I experience. And I'm not just saying me here, change me to someone else. If you want to get better at tennis, you can observe the past 20 years of Wimbledon and notice how they do that. Notice they'll read their biographies. You can go into the modeling and observing experience of those people who aren't even around anymore. So you already want to double down in modeling people and trying to bring some of those people into your life so you can flip the scale. So if you've got negative people around you, and let's just say we can't let go of them as much as we would like to sometimes, we try to introduce more people into our life to create balance. Yes, we should create boundaries. Yes, we should do things like that to protect ourselves, so therefore we're not being influenced by them solely. Because at the end of the day, you are the person who regulates that. There is always a choice. But if we go back into the idea of transformation, we need to be consciously competent. We need to introduce more people. And even observing and modeling people from a distance, then it's on you to be so consistent and so dedicated that success will not be ignored. Or success will not ignore you. Because if you do anything consistently, it will be handed over to that fourth step even, which is unconscious competence. You got to do it each and every day, day in, day out. You've got to prioritize your thoughts, your feelings, your self-development as the most important thing. Because even if you have other people in your life, once you dedicate your life to, or yourself to your transformation, they're going to get a better value from you anyway. You don't serve anyone very well when you're in a stress, or if you're in a painful, or if you're in a confliction or conflicted within yourself. So you've got to go on the inside. You've got to be able to make changes. You've got to be so dedicated to your craft, or so dedicated to your transformation or your solution, that it'll eventually go to that fourth stage of unconscious competence. Now, I did say there was a secret 5 phase of this, or 5th step. Well, that is when you get so good at what you're doing, and then you become consciously aware of what you're doing. That's mastery, in other words. You're not just handing it to your unconscious mind and letting it be an autopilot. You're now doing it naturally and unconsciously, but you're also being aware of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And then you're refining it, getting better at it, starting to get more specific or more precise. So if we break it down again, the 4 steps of learning and transformation, the first step is we don't know what we don't know, which is unconscious incompetence. So we're very incompetent of doing the thing we want to do. We're very incompetent that we just don't even know that it's an issue. Some people go through life not thinking that their unhappiness is an issue. They think it's normal, in other words. They think it's natural to be depressed. They think it's natural to feel not worthy. I know that to be true because I felt that way. I thought that's what life was about. So we've got to move ourselves to that second step, which is conscious incompetence. Now we know there's an issue, but we don't know how to change. Then the third step is, once we start to do something about it, which is assuming responsibility, then consciously modeling people, consciously observing them, being so consistent in our actions, being more dedicated to that goal than anything else, that then we become natural at it, which is the fourth stage, which is unconscious competence. We hand it over. Like learning to drive, we've done it so often, we don't even think about driving. Sometimes we even wonder, how do we get from A to B? I don't even remember my journey. Because you've been doing it unconsciously. So we got to get that phase logically in our mind. Because now you know where you are. And the more conscious you are, which means you're now becoming that third phase of consciously competent. Or, at the very least, you are consciously incompetent, but you know there's an issue, but you're going to start to implement it to get to that third phase. Now, if you could imagine it being like a ladder, like steps, first step, second step, third step, fourth step. So going from, I don't know what it is on the camera here. Obviously, if you're listening to the podcast replay, you can just hallucinate this in your mind. But let's just say there's a set of steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, to get to the unconscious competence. Now, if you can imagine going all the way up and all the way to the side in the axes of some form, or axi, whatever one it is, the way that we level up those steps on the vertical and the horizontal is by distinguishing the difference between them. So on the vertical, you could say that is your thoughts, your internal processing. On the other dimension or other axis is the things that you do. So if we add thinking and doing, we're going to go up those steps. We can't just think all the time. We can't just be wishful thinking because we're not doing anything. And we can't just do mindless doingness because we're not refining it. We're just doing the same thing over and over again. And I think Einstein said that would be madness or insanity. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we've got to make sure that we're thinking and we're doing at a high level. 10 out of 10. If we're operating from that 10 out of 10 in our thoughts, our feelings, our internal associations, our belief systems, we're radiating it and doing the things, in other words, taking inspired action, then we're going to level up those steps from 1, 2, 3 to 4, to even the 5th, the mastery one, quicker than ever before. So it's about thinking and doing. And the one thing we think about is, or consider, is where are we? Be consciously in check with your emotions. Be in check with your thoughts. Am I in a positive state or in a negative state? Am I doing something or am I not doing it? Should I be doing it? The more conscious you are, that gets to the conscious competence. So it really allows us to bring things up to that level. So those are the 4 steps of transformation. In my opinion, it goes into NLP, it goes into hypnosis, it goes into lots of different things ultimately. And the good thing is, when it comes to the hypnosis side of things, you can learn it from, or listen to it through your mobile device. Just go to freehypnosis.app. We're updating the Android one hopefully next week. iPhone one is up to date as we've got things to develop still. It's going to get really profound. But ultimately, you can go to freehypnosis.app and listen to some hypnosis tracks, which is going to get you more to that conscious and unconscious competence. Because now we're working with the unconscious mind. The conscious competence is, look, I'm going to be listening, I'm applying this, listening to the hypnosis app and all those kind of things to level up that unconscious incompetence. So that is what I've got to talk about today. Let me go ahead and see if there are any questions. Once again, this is being broadcasted live on YouTube and also Facebook. Just type my name in. If you're listening to this on a podcast replay, you'll find it. And then you can subscribe. And especially if you're on YouTube, you can like subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment, hit that bell and all those things so you get notified in a real great way. So let's go back to what we saw. So So Gabrielle said, thank you, Joseph. Well, you are more than welcome, my friend. Miles said, I've been listening to you for a year and I've listened to your Bulletproof Mind well over 150 times. The longer the episodes are, the better they are to fall asleep to. The struggle one is my new favorite. Well, that is awesome. Yeah, I really enjoyed doing the struggle one. Obviously very personal as well. And the Bulletproof Mind when we began the first month or two of 2020. Vanessa said, amen, fantastic. Liz says, what if you're not a person who has many friends or social? Well, one of those things there is that do we want to be is the question. Like if you ask me personally, I am very introverted in many ways, which some people don't believe to a degree, because I can speak on stage in front of 1,000 people. I can be broadcasting live. My work gets downloaded a ton of times, but I'm actually a very introverted person. But let's just say we want to socialize, and let's go to different things. Like think about what you're passionate about. Think about what you enjoy doing, and then go to like things like meetup.com. Like there's so many online at the moment as well, which makes it a little bit easier because there's that barrier of this kind of camera thing right here for you to be connecting with people more. So if you are introverted, there are other ways of meeting people, and it's easier to meet people of a like mind. Now, of course, if we have things like social anxiety or phobia, there is a hypnosis track on the Hypnosis app for you to go ahead and listen to, or a confidence one to help with that. So I would definitely consider meeting up with people who you want to be like, or who you would admire, or who have the same interests or the same values, because that gateway into that community is going to be a lot easier, in other words. You're not just like picking up a random conversation with someone down the street. You're finding someone where there is a connection there. And one of the reasons why I say that is when we meet people, those familiar connections happen when we're in rapport with someone. And therefore, if we're in rapport with someone, one of the reasons of rapport is familiar or similar or common experiences. So if I met you, Liz, and I knew that you'd been to Cambridge, England, and that's where I was born, I'd go, wow, Liz, you're from Cambridge. That's amazing. We've got like an instant connection. Takes away a lot of anxiety, lots of worries and doubts, because there's something familiar between you and I. So that's why we should meet people who are familiar or similar or has a common experience with us. And that's why hobbies are a good aspect of being able to connect with people. That's if we want to be more social. Marcia said, my family is my issue. I don't want to hang out with them. And that's okay as well. We got to protect ourselves. Now, sometimes we might, depending, that it depends. Like if it's really, really bad, you've got to look after yourself. There are going to be breaking points or boundaries levels, but you got to be conscious of those boundary levels and go, okay, this is what I'm prepared to do. There's what I'm willing to do. Arms distance, length, all those kind of things for an hour, a week, or like, obviously I don't know the situation of things, but you've got to be conscious of implementing those boundaries, because you don't want to be influenced by other people. It doesn't mean we can't love someone because they're family, but we can choose how much we interact. We can choose how much time. We can choose if we're protected or not. We could build ourselves up so much that whatever they say or do, which is negative, doesn't affect us. I've been in situations like that in the past, not necessarily family members, where I've got to be around a certain person. It could be a work colleague, for example. But you're so empowered and so strong, but whatever they say, whatever they're negative or doubtful, you go, that's just their issue. Doesn't affect me. They're projecting. That's all what it's about. So there are different levels of this that you've got to make sense of yourself, because obviously I don't know the experience. But yes, we've got to either introduce more people to outweigh that, limit the negative people, have boundaries in some way, or be so powerful and strong that no matter what negative person or challenge is in your way, that you will overcome it or be fine because you're radiating so profoundly. So I might get this wrong, but Somesity, I might get that completely wrong, so I do apologize if I did, from India. So great to have you, my friend. We've also got a long-time listener here, Malcolm Clark. Yes, it's 2:54. Well, now it's 3:05 in the morning in England. But really awesome person, big supporter of me. So thank you, my friend. Although we've never met or anything like that, but I do appreciate all your comments as always. Claire said, thank you ever so much. So no, you're more than welcome. Thank you for being here. Marcia says, I really need to get enlightened to how to deal with negative family members. It's become emotionally overwhelming at times. Okay, so to help you with that, I did a free video, and it was, I got to think of the name of it. Like I said, we've got over like 1,200 videos, but it's how to deal. Leave a comment, or you've left a comment, but just remind me in the comment of Facebook and I'll find it after this live, okay? But it's how to deal with people who, you know, get in your way and like try to bring you down, all those things. I'll find the video and I'll post a link to it. I can see that you're on Facebook there, so I'll leave that comment there. And for those who are wanting to access it, just go to facebook.com/Joseph's fan page and you'll be able to find it on this episode. So I'll get onto that. I like spending time with people who intimidate me because I know there's growth and potential in that connection. That's awesome, Vanessa. I really like that you said that, because we're growing, like you said, we're growing ourselves, we're expanding ourselves. That's why we should live beyond our comfort zone a little bit. And that's why I've said recently in a couple of the videos, live videos, that I thrive in challenges because it expands me. It makes me grow. If I'm walking out in a gym and lifting weights, well, the weight, which is slightly heavier, is going to expand the muscle or break it down to rebuild it stronger. So there is an incentive of doing things a little bit hard. It makes us stronger. So I really like that you said that. It does expand our consciousness. It does expand our flexibility. And that means we're starting to go up the scale of those 4 steps. Unconscious incompetence, a conscious incompetence, the conscious competence, and the unconscious competence to get to that level of mastery. So with that, we're going to probably end this stream. But I hope you found it of value. And like I said, go ahead to freehypnosis.app if you do want to be able to download the app if you haven't already. On Android and also the iPhone, you got hundreds of well over 500 free episodes. You also have lots of over 100 hypnosis tracks in there as well. You can listen to them as you go to sleep. And if you go ahead and review, leave a rating on the App Store, I will greatly appreciate it, because it means other people will go, okay, I think that there could be something here for me. And that's what I want. I don't care if you just use all the free stuff. Use it. Do as much of the free stuff as possible. I don't mind. I love doing this. And as I said, the Android phone app is working for most devices, but there are some devices. I mean, I actually bought an Android phone, which I have no idea how to use really, but I downloaded the app and it does work for this one. But with that in mind, hopefully next week we are putting the whole new version of the Android app, which is going to have everything which the recent iPhone one has. So from favoriting to getting all the custom stuff, all of that stuff will be back in business for all devices. Hopefully next week. Like I said, I actually purchased this because I need to test it myself. I'm an iPhone person. but I need to test it, so I will be testing it this week with my developer. And if all is well, then we'll go ahead and publish it. But it's kind of a cool little phone though. I do actually like the look of it. Okay, so thank you, Malcolm, as well. You said you've watched me since 2009 or something like that. Always, Will, as your advice is great. Top guy. Well, thank you, my friend. You're a top guy too. Liz said, thank you. One issue I find when meeting new people is the conversations become more and more competition. Questions get asked about what you do for a living, if you're in a relationship or not. Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that I've noticed it more like compared to England. Not as much when I was in Austin, Texas. Wasn't like that. But in California, I've noticed that. But the best way of getting rapport with people is to ask questions. I mean, if anyone's nervous about anything, like speaking about themselves, everyone likes to speak about themselves, so ask them questions. But it is about also refining people and finding out, look, if you're in a hobby situation, like I said on meetup.com, then the chances are it's going to be a little bit easier because they're not asking too much. And if they do, you can always just ask the same questions back or change your subject. So we've got another question as well. Oh, so sorry, Vanessa said, thank you again. Great topic. Well, you're more than welcome. Thank you. Heather says, thank you again as well. Love the live episodes. Well, I love doing them as well. I forgot to change the screen. I love doing them as well. I am going to do more of them. I think this might be if we include Sunday as this week, depending how we do it. This will be like my 4th live video of the past 7 days at the very least. I've got a question here. How to get maximum from self-hypnosis? Well, consistency. First of all, try choosing the right topic which fits your needs, but then consistency. Because when we think about what hypnosis is, now of course it's recorded and it's for more of the general public. So I mean, like, it's not like it's got your name on it or anything like that. But the more consistent you are, the more it retrains your unconscious mind. It's almost like going through an overgrown garden. If you keep walking down the same path, that path is going to be more well trodden. So consistency will breed that success there. So that's what I do. And a follow-up question was because I fall asleep after a few minutes of starting. Well, what I would do there, sometimes it's not a problem if you do fall asleep, but if you find that it's not producing or yielding the results you want, be in a more sitting position. Don't lay down. Don't listen to it like the time that you would go to sleep because you're conditioned to do that. Don't listen to it in bed because usually you're conditioned to fall asleep when you're in the bed. That's why it's in the bedroom, right? So I would be putting myself in a more upright position, cross-legged or something like that, even against the wall, whatever it is, so you are more consciously aware, but you will drift and dream. Some people go into deep trances which feel like sleep, but when they do the count up, they come back, and that's because they were in trance. So that is what I would suggest there. Changing your position, mix things up, be curious about it and go, I wonder if I listen to hypnosis, obviously not doing anything important like machinery or vehicles, but doing it in a different position, upright. See what happens, test and play with it, and you might find that curiosity will actually expand you in deeper ways than you could ever imagine, because now you're starting to be consciously competent of expansion, which will then get handed over to your unconscious mind. So that was a really good question. I love that you said that because people will think that, but mix things up, see what else we can do. And then that's when the magic happens. And you said thank you for that. So no, thank you as well. So with that, my wonderful friends, we've been going on for, oh my goodness, we've been going on for 48 minutes when it comes to just for live content, let alone a 52-minute stream because we'd have a 10-minute intro. But with that, if you're liking and loving my work, go ahead and leave me a comment, subscribe, leave a review on the app. Like I said, the Android one is coming out with a new version hopefully next week, as long as it's been tested fully and completely to our satisfaction. And I look forward to speaking to you on a future live video or in a future podcast replay. And just know that you're worthy, deserving, and capable to achieve all that you desire. And of course, that you deserve. So let's go ahead and shine, my friends. I look forward to speaking to you on a future episode. Many thanks and goodbye.